Hi everyone, welcome back to the Spring Garden series. Well, it doesn't feel much like spring out here today. It's in the high 40s, it's windy, it's cold. We've even had a couple of nights of frost, and you can tell it's kind of taken its toll on the garden. We did lose a couple of tomato plants to frost. The nasturtiums are looking a little bit bedraggled, but no worries. Warm weather is coming soon. I know a lot of you are excited about it too. And today we're going to head inside in just a moment and talk about how to water and fertilize our indoor seedlings. But before we do that, we have a few comments we'd like to read. Well, people are really excited this year about spring gardening. So I just wanted to read a couple of really special comments. The first one comes from Teresa Healy. And Teresa says, "Hi Kim, I love your video. I live in Ireland and this will be our first year starting a garden.
That's cool.
My kitchen is full of seedlings." I can relate to that. I hope to get some out into a small greenhouse we purchase soon. I think it's still a bit cold for planting in the 2 raised beds we built out of old fence boards. Wish us luck. Thank you for all your helpful videos.
I think it's really cool how we're getting so many comments from people all over the world. It seems like the reach is bigger this year from people who have written back and said where they're from, etc. So that's really cool. So make sure that you tell us.
I also love, hold on just a second, Jerry, I also love how she's building her raised bed out of old fence boards. She's repurposing and really just making use of what she already has on hand.
Maybe we should go out to Ireland and film an episode there.
Oh, that'd be fun. Teresa, can we come out to see you?
All right, that'd be really cool. Here's a cool comment from Richard Barksdale. He says, "I've learned so much from watching your videos. Thanks. Hey, tell your husband, camera guy, he is doing an awesome job also with the videos." You know why I like this comment. This really encourages me to keep filming and just trying to do a top-notch job for you guys. This is my hobby in all of this. Don't know a lick about gardening, but I pick up stuff here and there. So thanks a lot. I love these comments. That really just helps me to keep on going.
Super encouraging. Super encouraging. Thanks a lot, Richard. The next one I'm going to read is from Amanda. And she commented on the seed starting video from last week, and she said, "This made me so excited to start, but it's a bit too early in my zone. However, I have a plan written out and I can get my supplies together now. I will be starting tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, zinnias, and some herbs indoors. Cold tolerant veggies I start outdoors as soon as the soil can be worked. Can't wait." Great video. So Amanda, that's wonderful. I love how you're putting together your supplies now, you're putting together a plan, and you definitely are going to be ready. As soon as the weather's warm enough, you're going to be ready with seedlings to put outside. Okay guys, we're going to head inside because it's too cold out here for those indoor seedlings.
Here, home we don't do cold.
We don't do cold, so let's head back inside. You guys, it is so cold out here. We are not used to this kind of cold in Southern California. In fact, I had to bring all of these tomatoes I just transplanted inside this morning because it was just too cold and windy. But come on over here, I wanted to show you how things are going with the new spring garden veggies. And Jerry even got a fire going over here. It's nice and cozy. But you guys remember we got our spring garden seed started last week. And I've got the tomatoes and peppers are here in the grow light box. So let's just peek inside and see how they're doing. So I love this grow light box. They're in here with the heat mat, and it's so exciting to see them come up. This is only a week's worth of growth. So we've got the tomatoes in here that are coming up. One of the peppers has come up. The basil has sprouted. And I know the soil here is looking really dry, but that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to water these and how to know when to water. A couple of clues so that you know exactly when to water and fertilize your seedlings. So I did go ahead and put the lettuce and the onions and kale. I took them out of the grow light box because I just felt like it was getting a little bit too hot. And I put them here under my grow lights, and it's so exciting. Again, what a thrill to see them already popping through the soil. Here's the onions, the red Russian kale, and the couple different kinds of lettuce that we started. And even over here are the sugar snap peas. And I told you guys last week these grow fast. And would you look at that? I can already taste these peas are absolutely so delicious. It's going to be so much fun to see them out in the garden. Now the cucumbers and the squash actually popped into my grow light closet. I took them out here to show you guys. But look at the growth on this. This is the straight-necked yellow squash, and this is just 1 week's worth of growth. So let's get into right off the bat how to water and fertilize these seedlings. so they can grow nice and strong and get outside in the garden as soon as the weather is warm enough. Well, if you haven't got started yet with your spring garden, it's not too late. Head to my website, pick up one of the spring garden collections, 12 varieties, easy to grow vegetables. When it gets warm enough, you're going to be ready to start. It's going to be so much fun. Now, I get a ton of questions about how do I know when to water my plants? And I wish there was some kind of magic formula to share with you, but it really is super dependent on how warm the location you have your plants growing in. If they're in a warm location like a sunny windowsill, they're going to dry out a lot quicker. If they're in a cooler location, they're not going to dry out quite as fast. However, there are a couple of really important clues that you can look for. The first one is the color of the soil. Let me show you what I mean. Now, these are the seedlings we started last week, and I let them dry out just a little bit more than I normally would, just to illustrate the point here. If you'll notice, the top of these seedlings are a very light brown color, as opposed to a seedling over here that has enough water. That's a dark brown color. So the first clue to look for is the color of the soil. If it's a light brown color like this, it means that you definitely need to water. If it's a dark brown color like this, it means that you don't need to water. There's enough moisture in the soil. Now, the second thing that you want to look for, and I'm going to show you this actually on the containers with soil, is the weight of the container or the pellet. So if you pick them up, you'll notice that the one that needs water is a lot lighter. The one that has enough moisture content is a lot heavier. So you can look here and notice the color of the soil again is that light brown color. This is the one that needs water. The soil here is a darker brown color. That's the one that doesn't need water, and this one is a lot heavier. So again, look for the color of the soil and look for the weight of the container that your seedling is growing in. And it'll vary from pellets to containers. So once you've grown indoor seedlings for a little while, you're just going to get used to how they feel, how they look, and you'll be able, with a little bit of practice, to be watering and fertilizing your indoor seedlings like an old pro. Now, how do you water? Okay, you always want to water your seedlings from the bottom. And the reason for that is you don't want to disturb the little seedlings by pouring in and drenching all your seedlings from the top. And watering from the bottom is a much healthier way to water. You're not going to spread any diseases or bacteria in your seedlings by doing that. And the water will just soak up from the pellets. So we're going to be watering in just a second here. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about fertilizing too, because we're going to water and fertilize our seedlings all in one shot today. So I've got a gallon of water here, and what we're going to do is put some fertilizer in here so that our seedlings have the nutrients that they need to keep on growing. Now, how do you know when to fertilize? Okay, when your seedlings first pop through the soil, they have these little things called baby leaves here. Okay, there's a scientific term for them, but I just like to call them little baby leaves. Now, as they grow, they develop what's called a true leaf. And if you look over here at these tomato plants, they're starting to develop their true leaf that actually looks like a tomato. So as soon as they start developing their true leaves, when they have about 2 sets of these true leaves, is when you want to start fertilizing. The baby leaves and the soil that you planted them in are going to supply the nutrients that they need until they develop these true leaves. Now take a look here at these cucumber and squash plants, and you can tell even more what the true leaves look like. This is the true leaf, or the adult leaf, and this is the little baby leaf. So these are really ready to fertilize now. So let's go ahead and talk about what fertilizer to use. Now, I like to use a water-soluble liquid fertilizer. And the reason for that is when you're watering with a liquid fertilizer, it's going to have all the nutrients it needs in a water-soluble form so the seedlings can take it up right away. So my 2 favorite ones to use are the Vermistera worm tea, lots of good beneficial bacteria and microbes, and this really, really helps with the root development. Now, you can pick this up at vermistera.com, and you can use my code CallieKim, get a 10% discount. This is great, great fertilizer for watering your indoor seedlings. And you really want to go easy when you're fertilizing your young seedlings. You don't want to overdo it. I'm just going to add about an ounce or so to this gallon jug, which is about 3 or 4 capfuls. So along with the worm tea, what I've been using and testing out in my garden and absolutely love is the Good Dirt plant food. I've been using it for probably about 6 months or so, really love it. And this has the nitrogen that is needed for your seedlings to provide it with some good leafy growth. So I just put a pump of the Good Dirt plant food in here, and that's all you need for this gallon jug. I'm gonna shake it up, and I'll show you how to water and fertilize your seedlings all in one easy step. Now I am gonna water or fertilize my indoor seedlings about once a week, but I am gonna check my seedlings daily to see if they need watering. So for these large peat pellets here, I'm just gonna pour the water into the bottom. It's actually kind of fun to watch the pellets kind of soak up the water. I'm gonna let it sit in there for about 10 minutes or so. And again, these pellets are really light because they definitely need water. That's why they're kind of tipping over there, but don't worry about that. And I'm gonna do the same with my containers here. I'm gonna pour the water in the bottom, and the containers and the soil will soak up the water that it needs. We're gonna let it sit there for about 10 minutes and then pour out the water that isn't absorbed. I'll do the same here for these small pellets. You can see these small pellets are starting to turn a little bit light on the top. They're not quite as dry as the large pellets, but I really want to water them before they get to the really, really dry point. That way the seedlings aren't getting stressed out and stunted, and they just keep on growing. I'll do the same here for my peas. I just love how these peas look. I can still see the little seed there poking through the soil. It's just so much fun to start seeds indoors. So I'm gonna let these sit for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna pour the water off. Now, one thing that's kind of fun when you're watering pellets, you might wanna grab your kids for this one too, is as the pellets become nice and moist, you can see the water kind of travel up the top, and see how it's dark brown right here? Once the pellet has absorbed all the water that it's going to, all the way up the top will be dark brown. Well, while we're waiting for all the water to absorb, I have had a lot of questions about how to deal with fungus gnats inside. Now, if you've never had fungus gnats, you're lucky, but they're those little pesky flies that kind of fly around your indoor plants sometimes. Well, a super easy way to deal with them is with something you probably already have around your house, and that's apple cider vinegar. Super easy to do this, guys. You can make easy little fungus gnat traps just by pouring in some apple cider vinegar to little bottle caps and setting it around your indoor plants. So I'm just pouring apple cider vinegar in here, and I'm gonna put a drop or so of liquid dish soap, it really doesn't matter what kind, into each little bottle cap. And what happens is the fungus gnats are attracted to the smell of the apple cider vinegar, and they fly in these little DIY fungus gnat traps, and they drown, and bye-bye fungus gnats, because there's nothing more pesky than fungus gnats. And they also kind of tend to get in your soil. They can really destroy the roots of your plants, so you really don't want to have a fungus gnat problem. In fact, I would recommend going ahead and putting these little fungus gnat traps around your seedlings before you even have a problem. Because once you get a problem, an infestation, it's really hard to get rid of. Now, the other thing that's super easy to do is to just sprinkle cinnamon on the top of your soil. And you can do this when you plant your seeds, before you even plant your seeds. Just sprinkle it around the soil. Cinnamon is a natural antibacterial, has natural antibacterial properties. Got some on the leaf there, but that's no big deal. So that's why it's probably a good idea if you sprinkle it before you plant your seeds, but I forgot to do that last week. And anyway, that does help cut down on some of the fungus gnats that you might have crawling around your soil. Oh, and another little tip I wanted to share with you guys. I've been having a lot of problems on my pepper plants for some reason this year with aphids. So super, super frustrating to get aphids, especially inside, because there's no natural predators to take care of them inside. But a really easy tip, all you have to do, oh, and I want to show you here the aphids. For some reason, they're really liking the leaves of my pepper plants here. Now, before you try any other kinds of natural pesticides or anything, all you have to do is just rinse your plants off with water, which I've actually been doing about once a week to my peppers here, just to rinse the aphids off. So what I do is I just take my pepper plant, take it to the sink, just put it under running water, and I really just inspect underneath each leaf, and they like to really hide right in here. So I'll just take my plant, stick it under the faucet, and just rinse it off and rinse all the aphids off. And I'll usually do that about once a week or so, just to make sure they get nice and clean and get those aphids all rinsed off. And so far it's been working pretty well because I don't have too many more aphids on my peppers. Well, let's check our plants here and see if the water is absorbing. And then I think we're just about done. Okay, you can see on the pellets here, see how the top of the soil here is that nice dark brown color? That's exactly what we want. The pellet definitely feels heavier than it did before, which means that it's absorbed all the water content that it's going to absorb. And can you see here how it's nice and wet, darker brown all the way up? So these pellets are good to go. However, you don't want to make the mistake of letting your pellets sit in water. So I'm actually going to pour this water off. Now sometimes it's a little bit tricky to pour off the water without the pellets falling out. So what I like to use is my little turkey baster. Now I'm sure all of you guys have one of these around your house from Thanksgiving, right? So I'm just going to put my little turkey baster into my tray. And I am going to save this water because it's got that good fertilizer in it, and I can water some of my other indoor plants, or even take my little watering can outside and water some of my outdoor plants as well. So check your plants daily, make sure they don't have a fungus gnat infection, make sure they check to see if they need watered. The key is really checking your plants daily, because they're like your little babies here, and you want to make sure that you're nurturing them and checking on them and caring for them, because that way in about 4 to 6 weeks after they're done growing inside, and once the weather warms up, the frost date is past, your seedlings are going to be big and beautiful and healthy and strong, ready to go out in the garden and grow you a lot of veggies. So I'm going to go ahead and pour all this water off, and we're going to come back and wrap up the video. Well, comment below, let me know if you've gotten seeds for your spring garden started, how it's going with your indoor seedlings, and what you're excited about growing this spring. If you haven't got started yet, make sure you head to my website, pick up the spring garden seed collection, and I will put links in the video description to all the supplies I use to start my spring garden, including the discounts for the Vermistera and the Good Dirt plant food. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.